If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.
The miracle isn't that I finished. The miracle is that I had the courage to start. John Bingham. We all share a commonality. The runner on the starting blocks, the one at work, the one studying, the one trying to create the best life possible for their family. See, we are all at a beginning, looking up at an idea. Nothing given, nothing to adjust or react to, no, just an idea. And ideas, when we are at the bottom looking up, they're deceptive in nature. Their size, their weight, their breadth. They like to present themselves as much more than they actually are. And so, to turn ideas into things, one needs see themselves. Not as some descendant of Mount Olympus, tasked with lifting that 2,000-ton boulder before them, but as one armed with an understanding, the awareness that the 2,000-ton boulder before them can be broken down, piece by piece, that it is nothing more than a facade, and while it may stop most in their tracks, you are simply not most. Not because the world treats you differently, but because you see the world differently. By knowing you are bigger than the sum of its parts, you have defanged this wolf. You have put yourself in position to do that which makes the world tremble, that which causes even the most confident to doubt. You have put yourself in position to begin. See, there is a time to look at the top of the mountain, breaking through the clouds, powerful and majestic. And then there is a time to look at your feet. And right now is the latter. You're not concerned with the big things. No, not right now. Your job is to move forward into this haze, to not see but adapt, to not know but trust. Things will materialize, and you know that. But at the same time, you can't control the future. Your battle is right now, and it's with the space immediately in front of you. It's with the thoughts attempting to deceive you. It's with the things the outside world will tell you, but forward motion is the antidote to all of that. And so forward you must go. The beginning is always the hardest because our thoughts are a mightier foe than life's obstacles. Thoughts take on lives of their own. They become monsters, demons, dead ends. Obstacles, on the other hand, just ask that we adjust. There is no obstacle that can't be addressed by stepping into it. And so while the temptation is to sit, thinking, speculating about how challenging the road ahead, this is where you think less and move more. Harness the world as it comes, because the truth is nothing is as big as it appears to be. Life is incredibly solvable. Every problem has a solution. Every bad chapter ends. Every setback is a chance to be more than you've ever been. But how would you know that? If you bowed down to the mountains in your head, how would you know that if you never began? So let today be the dotted line you sign with your future self. A promise to be aware that the mountaintop peers over you, but to not be distracted by its shadow. To take the climb one rock, one step, 1 second at a time. Let it be an acknowledgement that nothing life throws at you can't be broken down and conquered so long as you don't get in your own way. Gone are the days of being held captive behind steel bars of self-doubt and fear. That road ahead is not the problem. It never was. Refusing to give yourself permission to travel down it was the problem. So without constraints, meet life head on. Let the trials and tribulations emerge because they will, but know that you will rise to meet them. Let the unknown highlight all that you don't know, you can't see. Fine. The one thing you are sure of is that you will, one by one, transform the unseen into strength. And when those thoughts emerge, telling you that you've gone too far, that you're in over your head, that this isn't meant for you, know them not as truth, but as the only obstacle that can derail and distract. You don't have time for make-believe monsters. No, not today. So onward you go. To map the unknown, to tame the untamed, to live your life the way it was meant to be lived. It's no secret that the best things in life come with the biggest price tags. The victories, the transformation, the things that ultimately define your journey, they're made of something different. And in fact, if you look at the etymology of the word extraordinary, it means outside the normal course of events. It means it requires of you something bigger. Robert Frost has a beautiful quote that the best way out is always through. The only way to redefine reality is to stop running in place and look the now square in the eyes. And when I think about my story, my growth, the greatest adversary I've faced hasn't been instances of misfortune or setbacks. Sure, they occur, but we find ways around those. My greatest adversary has been to concede to what I believed was normal. To hope or expect that somehow things would change on their own, that the world would ultimately rearrange itself for me. But this way of thinking needs to be changed, because where there is no accountability, the power is in the situation. But when you find the courage to face every problem in your life head on, you suddenly find yourself where you need to be, in control. Life is about breaking things down and rebuilding. It's remembering the meaning of the word extraordinary, and therefore stepping into the dark, the unknown, the organized chaos. Not going around the discomfort, but storming the castle, because it's here the greatness lives. It's by paying a price in strength and courage that reality will ultimately bend to your will. While life might tempt us, while pride might beg us, the best way out is always through. The mind is like water, necessary for survival, productivity. but can just as easily drown out that likelihood of success. And I can tell you with confidence, you've never seen your body's limitations. What you've seen are the limitations of your mind. When you're tired or uncomfortable, weak or unsure, these things start as fear, being planted in your brain and attempting to grow roots, looking to acquire the real estate that exists between your ears. It's a powerful source. It can manipulate you, your reality, anyone and everyone around you. But it only exists with your permission, and we're not always cognizant that we've opened the gate and let it in. That's the crazy part. Oh, but we do, subconsciously or not. It's the reason you haven't gone as far as you can go, pushed as hard as you possibly can, because at some point fear stood between you and what you want. At some point, you started asking yourself if you'd gone too far. Look, it doesn't matter if it's athletics or business or art or anything. When things become uncomfortable or hurt, fear always shows its face. It's not because, you're dragging your leg on the floor or your knee gave out. It's not because you can't go on. It's because those thoughts trickle into your mind about not being able to finish. What if I can't handle this? I don't usually go this far. Am I pushing harder than I normally do? Is this right? Is it dangerous? Is it over the top? These thoughts are the seed of destruction, a virus. But here's the remedy. There's a saying in naval special operations that when your mind is telling you you're done, when you feel maxed out, you are only at 40% capacity. You haven't scratched the surface. And value isn't obtained until, in one way or another, you're able to realize this and push the panic, the anxiety back underground. You're not stopping because you can't go on. You're stopping because of the what ifs and the worst case scenarios. You're stopping because you're preconditioned to stay within boundaries. Because that seed has grown into concerns about the world conspiring against you, but the body does not control the mind dictates what the body does. See, the thing about life is that we all have narratives. We all have stories that we believe, and here's why that's important. Everything that happens to you or around you will be molded into your narrative. If you see something as crazy or far-fetched or impossible, life will be nothing more than evidence of that belief. Pain will be a wall 10 feet high. The old saying is, seek and you shall find. What you look for is what you get. Expect greatness and the body will listen. Your world will conform. That's why believing is being. The body, it executes. Loyal to every belief. You'll always be what you decide to be. There's a quote from Henry David Thoreau that I've learned to love over the years. He says, "We are constantly invited to be who we are." Meaning, essentially, there is always a hand, reaching out to invite us to leave the confinement we've allowed to become our lives, the pressure of the outside world, and attack a world that means the most to us, not obligatory, but for the opportunity. Because it's there, it's perpetually available, and that's what Henry David Thoreau means. And what's interesting is the second we lose sight of this, our lives become consumed with things that really have no relevance to our goals or our objectives. In fact, the daily routine becomes the goal. It's the box that needs to be checked to feel accomplished. We do things because, isn't that what you're supposed to do? Adhere to rules and processes and guidelines, almost like we forget why that routine matters. Like we forget the car has to go somewhere of relevance. You don't just get in and drive it to drive it. That doesn't make sense. And a friend of mine recently showed me this book of insights from different photographers. It's called The Photographer's Playbook, and it's life lessons that helped each one of them along the way. And one that stood out to me specifically was Andrea Parleto. And she talked about a concept called hibernation, or cutting off, temporarily leaving your day-to-day or your craft, so that all the have-tos and the should-bes can dissipate. And you can ask yourself the question that we so quickly lose. The question that should be the target, that should be the foundation we build upon. Who do you want to be? Because when all is said and done, and you're looking back, that's what will matter. That's what will dictate your happiness. Not that you were 5 for 5 on your checklist every day on your 20s, 30s, 40s, and on, right? No, what does it look like when you peel that back? What does it look like under the surface? What makes you, you? And sometimes we have to step back, go away, leave the day-to-day world we've created to see life from a different angle. Eliminate the steps, the requirements, the technicalities, and what are you left with when you put your head on the pillow at night? What makes you smile? Bronnie Ware states in her book, Regrets of the Dying, that not living a life true to oneself was one of the greatest regrets people experienced. Isn't it worthy of your time, your attention? Don't you owe it to yourself to make sure that your vision is defined and your actions support that? See, anyone can move just to move, and anyone can breathe just to breathe. But the ones who make the most of each step, each breath, they put themselves in position to live life differently, to accept the invitation to be who they truly are, to take their inspiration, their gifts, and their dreams, and never look back. Stay awake long enough to capture the reality in front of you, but not so long that you forget to dream of new realities. Stay who you are, because your voice and your vision and your talents, they're unparalleled. But don't stay the same. Because to evolve is to breathe life into that authenticity. Stay away from those misaligned ventures, the broken places, the empty relationships. They're not you. But stay close to those things that are. Stay in when it's time to invest in yourself, to chip away at our default ignorance, to turn that curious soul into a knowledgeable actor. But know that all that other stuff, the fun, the escapes, the distractions, they stay right where they are, waiting, should you need them. Stay the course. Not just when it's easy, but when it's difficult. When things for a moment in time feel impossible, lose their glamour, feel like a burden too costly for you to pay. Because hanging in there through the storm, it changes the way we look at life. Like being able to see the stars for the very first time, and no storm stays forever. Stay humble. Because knowing what you don't know is the first step in becoming who you might be. But don't stay so humble that you can't move with conviction into that great unknown. Stay hungry, stay motivated, stay fixated on the next great adventure. But stay grateful for everything you have now. See, without that, the future loses its allure and its relevance. Without that, the perpetual desire for more stays. But that all-important sense of purpose goes. And a life without meaning, well, it just isn't much of a life. And that, if anything, is what we are left to understand. That fine line between staying and going, anchors down or sails up, acceptance of all that is, but the pursuit of all that can be. When the heart pushes and the brain pulls, perhaps this little formula is what connects all the dots. Stay who you are and go where that truth leads you. Stay because identity is power. Home is our foundation and our reflection tells the story. But go because progress is happiness. Meaning is rooted in overcoming, dying and being born again, slaying dragons just to prove to ourselves that we could. So go dream of new realities. Just make sure you stay awake long enough to remember why you dream. There are no wrong turns in life. What do I mean by this? Well, our problem is often not that a mistake was made, but rather we didn't see the value in that quote-unquote mistake. We stop, we lose faith, we question ourselves, even though we actually got what we needed. It was there, we just couldn't see it in the moment. And so the question is, why look for what you don't have? Why always be searching for the delta when every decision hands you something new, something powerful? Almost like we're walking on this path, and every time we do something, not necessarily the perfect thing or the thing we drew up, but something. As long as we do something, we get to put a brick down, another step to walk on in the path before us. We get to expand in some way. We're wiser, stronger, capable of more. And where sometimes we think we need to wait for that perfect brick, to take that perfect step. But if we can get beyond that and focus our attention on just getting more bricks out in front of us, we allow the answers to materialize. The question is, will you let them? And you take this podcast, for example, right? Just to be where I'm at right now has been a roller coaster ride. You know, started out 5 days a week, wake up, write an episode at 5 a.m. for 100 episodes, and then I tried the weekly interview, and then it was a few days a week, and then back to 5 days, and then I realized I didn't even need to create new content. If I take the YouTube stuff and make that the podcast as well, I get 10 times the result with less work. That's like a content creator's dream, and I can focus on making that one thing amazing. And so it's easy to look at the whole process and say, man, those 5 a.m.s were a mistake. They were a waste, right? That decision to interview once a week was a waste. All that fluctuation was a waste. That's not true. You don't realize how much you learn. I don't get where I am today without scrambling at 5 a.m. to create content that is not what it is now, right? Just like a year from now, I won't be where I am without the mistakes I make today. So the goal is not to be perfect. In fact, it can't be. It's to allow yourself to make those mistakes because they have the answers contained within them. And that's my point, is that, I've found the greatest outcomes are derived from not always trying to do the right thing, but rather promising yourself you'll do something. When you expect to look like a fool, you can then relish in all the wisdom that comes with it, right? Those wrong turns, they'll always take you where you need to be if you don't abandon the journey. That's what it's about, sticking with it, not abandoning why you're there. There's a saying that really stuck with me, and it's that you are your own experiment. Meaning life isn't about getting it right. Life is about trying and pushing and adjusting and eliminating the things that aren't quite you until you're able to refine the world around you. And I make that distinction because getting it right implies that if the answer you're looking for or the answer you think you need doesn't fall right into your lap, then it's a loss, or you've done yourself a disservice. And it's like, no, the greatest things we create, the greatest things we become, they're all derived from embracing those wrong turns because they show us something new, a new route, a quicker way, maybe a scenic path. Maybe you pick things up along the way that redefine the context of the whole journey. Maybe you even find in your detour a destination better than the one you were headed towards. Right? So you cut ties with plan A. That's experimentation, that's growth, that's what you cannot be scared to do in life if you want to make an impact. And so I'll end with this: life, it doesn't stop until you do, and that will always be the case. For pursuits big and small, far and wide, the right thing isn't found, but discovered by willingly undertaking many wrong things, by not being so results-oriented that we, ironically enough, ignore what brings the result. Life is a process, and one in which the picture isn't always clear right away. But if you hang in there long enough, if you're willing to adapt and adjust and grow, that picture ultimately will take shape. Remember, there are no wrong turns in life. Only turns not taken.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.